The US heads into another presidential campaign. Economic inequality has become a buzz phrase by both the Democrats and the Republicans. And as the gap between those who have and those who don't increases by the day in the US and other developed nations, it appears women are coming off second best. With me today is Heather McGhee, the president of the American liberal think tank Demos. Heather, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We're witnessing, aren't we, the hollowing out of the middle class, and again, not just in the States, but across the developed world. How is it that women are being left behind?
Well, in many ways, you can think about the fact that women really entered the workforce a generation ago en masse, and it was about that same time that the workforce became a much less stable, much more precarious place to be. So it's become harder to work your way into the middle class, to get a secure education without going into lots of debt, and to build assets and have a secure retirement and constant health care. And that's all been really the hallmark of what's now kind of a women's economy. Women's labor force participation across the developed nations is way up, and yet the security of those jobs is way down.
Because they're relying a lot on part-time and casual work, aren't they?
That's right. It's part-time and casual work, which on the one hand, the positive side of that is that it offers everybody, women and men, more flexibility to be able to stay home with aging parents, with young people. But at the same time, there's also a lot less security and control in those jobs. In the U.S., we refer to it as the on-demand economy, where workers really have very little control over their schedules. They're really trying to piece together enough income to make ends meet, and nothing is really adding up.
And when you factor in childcare, that becomes a real issue, doesn't it?
That's right. In the United States, childcare costs more than college tuition in over half of the states. It's one of the #1 sort of sleeper issues I think that you're going to see in this next election.
Are both political parties actually addressing these issues, do you think?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, really, if you look at the Republican debates in the U.S. right now, they're really focused on issues of immigration, on issues of sort of day-to-day political scandals, and they aren't really actually getting to the heart of what is keeping American families up at night, which is, can I keep a roof over my head, save for the future, afford to put my child through college? So right now, the Democrats have an advantage, at least in the fact that they're addressing the issues that are most important to American voters.
Now, Heather, you've said that the next wave of the women's movement has to have at its heart economic justice. What do you actually mean by that?
If you really think about the women's movement over the past 2 generations, it was very much led by the most educated women in society who were right up there at the glass looking in and said, I want exactly what my husband has. And so that's been a really important part of shaping feminism. And yet right now, if you look at the majority of women, of working women who are struggling to make ends meet, their issues are not about what Sheryl Sandberg calls leaning in, right? Most working class women are leaning in so far they're nearly falling over. They're working so hard.
Just to survive.
Just to survive. And so some of the issues of equity at the top, of being able to be in the boardroom, are not really the common everyday issues of feminism. So I think that the next wave of feminism has to sort of return to its working class roots and really think about these issues of childcare, of family leave, of minimum wage.
So, from what you're saying, feminism has a class problem.
I was asked that question once, and I responded in an essay. I think it does. At least in the U.S., it has a class problem and it has a race problem. And in many ways, that's because some of the organizations that are sort of carrying the flag for feminism, like with many organizations, they're funded by wealthy women who have time to give and serve on the boards of these organizations. And those women are very far away socially from the women who work as cashiers, making $7.25 an hour. And there's got to be that connection and more of a solidarity across class lines.